Right, okay, it's 10:07, so I think we can get started. So, welcome everyone. Just a few words before we get started. I mean, we're actually quite fortunate. We've got, when everyone's here, we've got a full committee, haven't we? It's 13. I know there's 1, 2, 4.
It's a bit.
It's summer.
Yeah, and I think, you know, on the whole, it's great because we can share the workload a bit, and I think that's useful. The not so good bit about it, I think, is that if we're not careful, we can waste a lot of time because we all want to put our 2 pence into everything. So I think at times we're going to have to be just careful about keeping things concise and getting to the point, moving on. Particularly when there's 1 or 2 busy meetings. I'm thinking of the ground. They're very, very busy anyway. On that subject, I mean, I'm very happy to let members have a say, and perhaps criticise for letting people go on too long, but I think it's important that you're able to get your points across. But being conscious that time's often against us. I also think it's okay to have differences of opinion. What I don't think is okay is that we shouldn't let that become disrespectful. So by all means, let's have differences of opinion. It can be a bit boring if we all talk about it, but let's be respectful to each other. And the last thing is, I think we're very fortunate to have this guy sat here.
Indeed.
And I think, you know, let's take notice of what he says, because invariably it's good advice. And if I don't take any notice, tell me. Okay. So, let's move on. Public question time. There's no members of the public, so I think we can skip past that one. Meeting can be recorded, which it is being now. Does anybody wish to make their own recordings? Okay, thank you. Item 20, apologies for absence.
So we've had apologies from Councillor Barnes, Councillor Bailey, Councillor Rostrum, Councillor Whitelaw, Councillor Reeves, so it's going to be a little bit late. Everybody should receive the reasons for it.
Are we all okay with those apologies? Thank you very much. Item 21, to receive members and officers' personal and disclosable pecuniary interests in items on the agenda. Does anyone have anything? Okay. 22, to consider written requests for new DPI dispensations.
I mean, there's a lot going around at the moment, you'll all be aware of them, so.
Other than that. Okay. Item 23, consider whether items on the agenda should be discussed in private session. Don't know anything, anybody? Okay, thank you. Item 24, confirm the minutes of the previous committee. So we're just noting the minutes of the last committee on 15th of April. Noted. Item 25, to elect a vice chair of this committee. I don't have any nominations. Does anyone have any nominations? Jenny?
I want to nominate Glenn.
I second that. What a great idea. All in favour?
I'd say yes if there was nobody else.
I did say yes if there was nobody else.
There you go. Great.
Do we have any other nominations?
No.
No? Okay,
Winnie?
so all those in favour? Welcome.
Good idea. That never well done.
Thank you, Glenn.
That's it, I'm going by.
Don't be personal like that.
Behind the wire and the handbag, so
Thank you.
maybe you should fall flat before you even start.
Congratulations, Glenn.
Thank you.
I don't miss many yet then.
Ready to go next to him.
Maybe he's on holiday for it.
Okay, where are we at? Item 26, grants. Chair's briefing on the grants process this year. Yeah, just a few words on grants. It can obviously, the process can be quite long-winded and quite tedious. I think those that's been on it before probably appreciate that. I'm very grateful to the working party for doing what they've done in streamlining this to the best of their ability. And I know we've some more to come on that, I think, and further out at the minute.
It'll be very brief though, because
Yeah, yeah.
we're not there, so don't panic about the time.
And I know you can't have a sort of one size fits all. I know it's there's always going to be odd ones that are quite difficult to get through. I think the only thing I would like to say is that when we do come round to doing these applications, which is September the next one, isn't it? If we could all be sort of prepared, and I'm likely to what goes on in the planning meeting, so those that's been to planning, we couldn't hope to get through all the planning applications if we hadn't looked at them before we came. And I think it's the same sort of process here. If we can look at the grant applications before we get here, we've got a head start, we can get through them, I think, reasonably quickly. Does that make sense? Moving on then, the grant evaluation reports. I've got a list here of the evaluations that we've had in. Does anybody want to comment on any of these?
I thought there were some great ones. The Shirley Memories one, I thought there was lots I thought were great actually. I like reading those. I think this is a highlight of this of this committee. I like giving money away, especially when you're doing something really useful. And I think some of these are.
We did say that we'd go visit some of these places, didn't we?
That's next on the agenda, isn't
It is, it's next on the agenda, yes. Yeah.
The only one I was a bit iffy about, the reason I put any further action, just because the Home First Film Festival, they didn't use our template, they just wrote his own report, and I didn't know whether people thought whether I should ask for a.
Well, isn't Sarah Whitelaw a member of that film festival committee? She is on there. She's like one of the members of the committee. Maybe you should have a quiet word with her.
Yeah, it's possible.
That might be the most.
Yeah, it's Steve Brunsby.
Yeah.
Yes, both of them are. Yeah, it's Stephen Goldberg who did the actual application, so it's him who fills in the evaluation.
Sorry.
I was going to suggest that perhaps we accept the report this time, but that would say that don't do it again. You'll use ours next time, please, because it becomes difficult to compare, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Yes. Okay, any other comments on any of these? So, councillor visits to community groups that have received awards, to consider whether we should visit community organisations.
Well, further on the agenda is Hackathon Cricket Club actually inviting us, and given that they're asking for still more money, and given that it's been your and my ward, I think we should go.
You're obliged, you're going to have to go and have a drink.
I take exception that you've chosen an alcoholic establishment. Our shopper's mission was don't even serve beer.
You can come as well.
Well, not quite sure fraternising with the enemy in a public place is actually allowed during
It's a very good thing to do.
I think there's a number of positives from these.
Yeah.
I mean, it does get us all out in the community as councillors.
And spreading the word about the parish council and its work.
Absolutely. And you know, it keeps some sort of people can see that we're actually taking an interest in where the money's ended up. And I think it's useful from all those points of view.
Because this is very much what the community celebration that we're looking towards in Upton is about as well. It's an engagement with the people that we do give money to and promoting that and developing those partnerships, because without those partnerships we really don't do very much, do we? You know, we can only function in partnership with other groups.
I am Jane, I do loads of QT, just been telling you.
I'm just sort of wondering how we can devise some sort of system about who visits where, which ones we choose, or do we just leave it up to individuals? I don't know.
I mean, There is an obvious structure if we want one, which is the ones that fall into people's areas, those people go,
Yeah.
unless there's 16 in one area and none anywhere else, in which case we have to divvy it up a bit. But
There are a
And
lot
that
of
should alert
grants,
us
though,
to
aren't
something wrong as well,
Yes.
isn't it?
there are a lot of grants, man, aren't there? There'll be a lot to visit.
yeah, I mean, I don't think we can go to everyone.
No, so
Well, I
I'm
think
just wondering how we
it's
could
the whole
choose.
council as well, it wouldn't just be this committee, I mean, I think that it would be spread wider, but I think you lot having first dibs, I suppose, is not.
We give them money, we choose the alcohol establishment, so they can have the ones with no alcohol.
Would it be possible to include, as part of the grants application process, some note to the people to possibly share some event with us that might be a permanent one after they've had the works done, and then we could diary that in and everyone get a notification.
Yes,
free
to go to do rather than just go in and look at it on
Yeah.
a Tuesday.
So if they have some kind of event scheduled for after when they've completed the works, perhaps we could go on there and invite, say we're having a whatever festival day, can come and see that.
Make sure you clean your car.
Bring your carpet slippers in people from, because
On
you
the,
don't
on
know.
the, on the evaluated one, it does say, if you, you know, please invite us to, invite us
Yeah.
over, it doesn't say it in the context of that, it just says it generally, not in terms of an actual event, so I mean, I could add in a bit extra about, you know, if it's a community event, it's obviously a,
I mean, not all of them lend themselves to it.
No,
Just looking at it, Home First Festival of Folk, I mean, if you didn't go, then.
No, I mean, going to admire the LED lights is exciting.
Potentially we could put a Morris dancing team together.
I reckon you'd be alright, I'm always dancing out the third.
I mean, should we?
I
as a
think we might
committee-
all, that could be a full council outing.
You're alright, thanks, fine.
I don't think we should try and micromanage this.
No.
I think it's up to the ward councillors to decide which it's appropriate to visit or not visit.
But maybe a sentence on the website, on the bit that talks about how the grants work and what you do, about if your grant, or if you're holding an event at your venue, why don't you invite your ward council, or something like that?
That's a good idea, to actually name the, well, not quite name the council.
But, yeah,
Yeah.
and put it in the bit that explains what you have to do.
Would it not be possible for also then for us to share that through a case on our Facebook page to say that there's an event going on at a certain point, and we publicise their event and they perhaps attend their event, so we
Yeah.
get more public engagement, and we also then get ourselves to a proper event to see what they've done with it.
so should I be sending lists of awards applicable to specific wards to councillors from those wards, is that?
Why don't you send the list
Not
to
even-
all councillors and let them find their own wards, which you don't
Okay.
have to spend time editing.
Okay.
I'd hate to think you'd have to shimmy some of them along.
If it was a simple request on the grants application form, when they send their things in, we're having an event in 2 weeks' time, then you could just forward all councillors, job done, you'd have to do all the work, do you?
Okay.
You can make yourself another job, you don't know.
Exactly, you don't really have to bring around and try and organise things, do you?
Okay.
Okay. But I think it's a very useful thing for us all to
I
do.
do, yeah.
Where are we at? Rolling grants. Consider approval of the rolling grant agreement for Home Valley Patient Transport and for the Home Valley Festival of Folk. I did read through these, but I didn't have a look at these.
Yeah, Councillor Wilson gets all the bank statements and all the accounts, which the rest of you don't see.
Anyhow,
Well, if you're happy with them,
Yeah.
I don't see any problem, I'm happy to propose we approve them.
I mean, this took a bit of gain, didn't it, the Home Valley Patient
It did,
Transport?
yes.
But I mean, they're finally.
Well, they missed the year though, obviously they missed last year,
Yeah.
so they lost out on £1,000.
And did they, sorry,
Go on.
but did they, the participants, the Transport one and the Festival of Folk, did they find it useful? You know, did both parties find it an easy, workable system?
I don't know about, I talked more to the Festival of Folk chap. I mean, it's obviously makes their life easier because having not to write an application forms makes life easier. I still felt there was quite, you know, we were still having to collect,
Yeah.
6 months worth of bank statements,
Yeah.
and it's still a task. It's not nothing.
Yeah.
But they don't have to sit and be creative and come up with new phrases
No,
every year
exactly.
to slip in.
Exactly.
Councillor Brooke.
Sorry, did I read that there was, is it £10,000 reserves for the Festival of Folk group that they like to keep hanging over themselves? I just want to bear in mind that if they start to get excessive reserves within there, and if we're going to authorise this automatically, I guess they do need a catch net for them so they can run every year and they can guarantee they're going to get that. I understand that there, but is potentially just to let them know that if they actually get over that one there, they should re-enter the grants process, because they could end up with a glut of money where they're still taking from us, and we've discussed that before, haven't we? About people having money and then gifting it or wasting it beyond that.
Giving it to charity.
So just, I know it was something like, they'd like to have £10,000 reserves. If you could just say to them as a caveat, if you are going to go read 10,000, please let us know, because we might want to consider you entering sooner.
I agree entirely with what you're saying. I think just to that point, the amount of, I don't think we can say it'll only be this much in reserve, because different places will require different amounts of money as their reserve. You know, somebody who's running a knitting group in a church hall isn't going to need 10 grand, but somebody who's running, I don't know, something big will, and maybe may need more.
Just on that one, you are right, but they said to themselves they like to keep the £10,000 as a catch, so they set their own figure.
Oh, well, that's
So in their application they basically said, this is our figure, we need to run this, and we've got 10,000 and some in the bank.
I suppose if we suddenly see 20,000, it's then we'll be thinking, well,
Yeah.
Well, even
that's a question.
yeah, even like.
Councillor Blacker.
I mean, I still feel a bit uneasy about the Home Valley Transport, the money that we give to them. I'm not suggesting we don't give them, but the grant evaluation is a little perfunctory. You know, in comparison with many of the others, I think. Maybe it's more difficult to write about, but I just thought there wasn't much effort really. You know, £1,000 is a reasonable amount, isn't it?
What I would have thought is that we should see numbers. How many people have used this service?
Well, it's 2,600.
But what does that mean? 2,600 journeys? 2,000, you know,
The same people,
Well, the
2,000.
question is how many people. It doesn't say how many journeys. The question is how many people benefited, and the answer was 2,600.
but he doesn't say how they, you know,
Doesn't.
that's probably a fault of the form, but that's
You can't
that's
ask
not
it
a
more
helpful
directly.
figure, is it?
But they just say maximum 200 work, which suggests perhaps you might just enlarge a little bit.
I agree.
I mean, I'm not sure, because was it spent on car maintenance or was it spent on insurance? Because it says both. Yeah. So I mean, I just think it's not a great. No, at least it's something which we haven't had before.
Yes.
I mean,
It's a step forward.
you could ask them to revise it and put it in next. I mean, this is an annual grant. If they submit it in the next meeting, which is when is the next meeting? It's relatively soon. Is it July, August?
Our next meeting, 19th of August.
August. So you know, whether they get 1,000 now or 1,000 in August, I don't suppose it's that big a deal.
Councillor Lyons.
I have not me actually, I think it's Mark Lawrence's constituent, who was having issues getting to the doctors, and he's even gone on the telly and done something about it. So this Home Valley patient service, is it selective about where it picks patients up from? Curiosity wise, how do we allocate someone to that service? Because I have a very vocal member of my area who struggles to get to the doctors.
Good to know.
Well, we need to know things like that.
I mean, they do, obviously they describe themselves as the Home Valley patient transport, not Honley patient transport.
This seems
Councillor
like
Miller, I think
sorry.
first, if you don't mind.
Yeah, it would seem that with some of these grants, if we're not getting much feedback, it's all, it would be sort of interesting and useful maybe to have a meeting, just a meeting, just to ask them a few questions. I mean, not in a sort of making it a difficult way, but just so we can just find out more what is going on, because it doesn't seem as if we know very much about what they're doing.
Seems potentially a very worthy cause.
No,
But they're not explaining very well how it's.
But it'd be useful to know what
Yeah,
they're
I
doing.
think Jane's right, as long as they understand, look, we're not thinking about not giving you the money, but we are answerable to other people, it's not our
And the
money.
public.
And we need to know what it was used for, how it was used, and a bit more than 2,600 people, you know. Is that everybody on the doctor's list who could potentially
Yeah,
use it?
that's
I
what
mean,
I
that's
wondered.
ridiculous.
That's what it'd be a bit more
Find out a bit
positive,
more.
these
How
precise
many
questions.
times
wouldn't
was
they?
it used
Yeah.
last year? What sorts of journeys?
What was it open to? How's it advertised, all these sort of things.
It was almost exactly what I was going to say. It's, you know, it's one of those that we need to develop a partnership with and find out what they're doing. Either visit, you know, go along and see how it works, or just have a meeting.
I assume it's the
discussion with
doctor's surgery that will have the figures.
Yeah.
So
They,
we're
they
dealing.
are a charity now. I did check that they are a charity.
That would be nice.
Okay, so where do we go with this one?
I think we should
I think we
just
should go back to them, shouldn't we? And ask for more detail, perhaps some.
And
I
ask
mean,
to be
reassure them that we're not
Yeah,
kind of,
Mm.
we haven't got the thread on the check,
Yeah.
but we,
Yeah, I think that's a fair point.
Could we not offer them a little bit of guidance as to how, if their grant application isn't what we'd expect to see from there, could we offer them a little bit of guidance on that one? Even if just one of those writes and say, you know, these are things we'd like to know, how you get, like Andy said earlier, you're advertising, how do you reach out to these patients, what are your kind of demographics, what area do you cover, and that kind of stuff there. So.
And in the context of what Councillor Lyles has just said about people, you know, on the far reaches of the Oak Valley, are they, you know, are they still part of the service?
do they serve just one doctor's surgery or do they
Well,
serve?
Three practices.
They say they don't.
It says
Three
practices.
practices.
Oh, right. They serve
It'd be good to name them.
two of them next to each other.
It doesn't sound like an unworthy cause at all.
No, not at all.
So accountability is probably key for this one, isn't it?
Anyway, and can we offer him a little bit more money to go a bit further out?
good heavens.
No, I'm not saying I'm thinking about the fact that if we're going to have to pay Yorkshire Transport, the people who don't ever give us a bus, to places that are rural, and we've got that extra Pennine Transport bus that's all his full of everyone going to Mecca Bingo, whatever, every Tuesday, so they can't do the extra journeys, other people in the community, they can't do additional journeys until someone else's journey's dropped off. So although we do have the rural bus service, which I have offered said constituent, right, but he didn't bring the number, right, you know, would it be worth asking what geographical area they come from, and if the geographical area doesn't cover that, is there a way that they can cover it for a fee that would then resolve our rural transport issue for doctors, bus services, whatever? Because most of the people who are upset about the lack of transport is because they need to get to the doctors. The ambulance service will take you to the hospital, it won't take you to the doctors.
Is this something that be worth? having
So I'm
a
just wondering if we can
face-to-face chat with
explore it.
someone? Would anybody want to care to volunteer to do that? Have a chat with?
I'll do it if you want.
Might come better, might it, having a conversation with
Well,
them?
I also wonder though if we can link him in with the local NHS service and get him some mileage that'd encourage him to go a bit further. Without
Is it just a 1 mile?
It may well go a long way when asked, but it isn't asked. We don't know.
I can go to him, Rich.
Let's find out a bit more about it.
Well, the woman who runs it is the secretary at the practice or the manager at Homley Surgery practice. The So I think it's her who does the organising
Yeah,
thereof,
she
but there's
does.
a single driver, but I don't think he kind of organises the service.
No, I think it's the woman at Holly
Yeah.
Practice who does the
When he
organisation.
tries to
He
get
just
paid for a
drives,
car park.
provides the car.
Hates
So
it.
did they when they first applied for grant, if we have more details, has it just got buried somewhere over the years?
Jenny, you are looking very foresightly at that. Looking for, realistically, I know you and I have only done a year, but do you really think that we have more information than we've ever had now?
We have struggled to get, I mean, this is not unusual, you know, Councillor Blacker's point about the amount of detail. This has been
Okay.
the
So
same
you've just gotta
going
get
back
more
as long as
detail.
I've been in the council. But as you've all said, it's a worthy cause, we don't want to knock them back, we don't want to scare them off,
Might
that kind of
improve it,
thing.
might improve it, might put a better position.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
Because I know you can volunteer for the ambulance service to do journeys like that and they pay you mileage, you see, at like 50 on pay.
Councillor Ryan.
If this is a charity, it's clearly not just one man and his little bus. So there must be other people that are.
No, what it is, it's-
that we can.
Yeah,
Sorry.
there are four
that we
trustees, I
can
think.
Contact and.
They give the
and
card.
approach.
It's a free car given to the charity by the person who
It's a car.
provides the car and the driver, but the woman at Holly Surgery administers its
It
activities.
is a charity.
Yeah,
It's a
but-
charity.
so the trustees are the doctor who we gave him a community champions award a few years ago. Remember the guy when the pandemic thing
Oh, yeah.
happened, when he
Yeah.
was doing that the vaccine
Yeah.
Yeah.
stations thing. I think it's a couple of doctors at the Holly Surgery. I think it presumably the manager of the service. Obviously they're all listed on the charity, where the charity is detailed. But there were no accounts, interestingly. I know that Councillor Wilson has seen the accounts and didn't have a ton of money, did they? It was,
Can I propose that we agree with Joe, interacts with the lady who runs it, and obviously then feeds back to us
Yeah.
at the next meeting.
Yeah, we'll agree then what we're doing.
Are you then, Joe, going to communicate the stuff that, you know, about what the numbers represent and talking about where they serve?
I'll
and,
politely
Yeah,
ask
okay.
some questions.
right, lovely.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to the grants working group. We've got a lengthy
Do you want to do
report.
the Festival of Folk? Can we do
Oh,
that?
sorry, yes. I guess it is, On First Festival of Folk.
No,
Yeah. Approval of the rolling grant.
If you're happy with all the detail you've seen, I propose we approve it.
Can you just have the caveat of obviously
Yes.
that they need to monitor how much they
Yeah.
have in reserve, would that be alright? I do agree we should approve it, but we need to make sure that they don't end up with a lot of cash and still keep taking out.
We're all okay with that?
Yeah.
Grants working group.
Yeah, we're nearly there. I thought I'd pulled everything together about 10 days ago, but I think I sent out the wrong document anyway, we need one more meeting and we'll be coming back to you. We've done all we know what we want to achieve, it's agreeing the document that we do. So we should be reporting back to the next meeting.
Okay.
And we're going to have attempt to have a face-to-face meeting. It might end up being a Zoom, but we're going to try and sit down and just bottom it.
Who's on the working party?
Glenn, Mary, Jenny, me. That's it.
And Rich.
And Rich, come on.
Okay, request for grant award change of use. This is for the cricket club. Awarded £4,100 towards replacing carpets. They managed to get them cheaper. I want to use the balance towards replacing furniture. So we need to consider whether that's okay or not. I mean, we've had these underspends before, haven't we?
Yeah, no.
In some cases we asked for them
Cliff,
back,
well,
haven't we?
Cliff Rex just gave us the money.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, what they applied for didn't happen, did it? Because
Yeah.
of health and safety
I mean,
issues.
in a way, it's a kind of clean way to let them keep it and use it for something else. But part of me says, no, they applied for this, we approved this, we thought about that. And if you start, you have that other thing about everybody, or if you say, well, we give a maximum of 10 grand, everybody applies for 10 grand, and then they find things to fill the 10 grand. I know it sounds harsh, but I think they should give it back. They could reapply.
I agree with Pat, they should give it back and then reapply if they want to replace the furniture. I appreciate that they've underspent and that's an amazing skill, but at the end of the day, we were a bit like that over the carpets anyway, do you remember? We're a bit like, so.
Well, I think that partly that was my misunderstanding of it being a cricket club and whether it benefited the wider community.
Function, we were using it for, yeah.
Councillor Brooks.
Absolutely, we should invite them to apply for the furniture in the next round. It's easier for us to set a precedent with this rather than us to start making, because other people will feel that they've been cheated or left out from this process. You know, well, we had an underspend and then you won't have that back. So I think we just call that.
I mean, no, the easy way is just to say, yeah.
In the original, oh, sorry, Mary, sorry.
I was just wondering if we wanted to kind of set a figure on this. I mean, £100 is quite a lot of money really, isn't it? So I think it's perfectly reasonable to stand it back, but I'm just wondering if it's £30 or £25 if they underspend, or do we need to think in terms of a percentage of the grant, you know, if it's more than 10% or something, because faffing around with small sums, isn't it?
Or do we just consider each on their own?
Or we consider each on
Yeah,
their
if
own
it's
merits.
40, 50 quid, it will cost us more to get it back and bank it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, yeah.
I think if they apply for a different next time for furniture, they'll probably apply for 1,500, you know, they'll not pass for more. But I think that's reasonable.
No, that's fair
You
enough.
know, I think that is reasonable. But I do think this is one that we should visit.
Yes, yes. We changed February.
Oh, it's like, okay, once he was locked, I couldn't get in, so I went to get him.
Okay, so we're going to,
Rich was going to say something.
We're going to say no and then visit.
sorry,
What was I going to say? Just about the fact that in their original application they did apply for carpets and furniture, and we said we would just pay for the carpet.
So there's all more reason to get them
Yeah.
back.
Just,
No, go on.
no,
No, you. I was going to go, I move that we ask for the money back.
all in favour of that? Councillor Green?
Well, I came in halfway through.
Okay. We'll not start again.
Councillor Reeves, it's been sunny normally.
I was just wondering, in terms of the grants working party, at which point would you ask for it to be returned? Obviously, when you fill in the evaluation form, you say how much you've spent, and if the group has not already, they might come clean and say, we've £500 or something. When do we pick it up? Does this need written into the guidelines for the?
I guess the broad answer is as soon as possible, isn't it? You know, if you underspend, please return the money as soon as you can. I mean, they might need to hang on a bit to make sure it's finished off properly or.
Do we actually need to say anything? I mean, that might just
Well,
encourage them
some-
to make sure they do spend it, might it?
I mean, we're kind of relying on groups to do what they've done, which is to tell us that they've underspent, I guess, before they send in the evaluation form. But I guess some will just not do that. We'll just put this money into any excess money into their reserves. So it's okay saying treat each one on its merits, but that's not really actually what we're treating everybody equally.
But when they do their, when they do their reporting back,
Yeah.
there has to be a summary of what they spent.
Yeah,
on,
there is.
so
Yes,
we would
there is,
find
yes,
out then.
we would, and then at that point, we're going to take action. I'm just trying to want clarity really about this process.
What are you thinking, that we ought to set a sum of money or a percentage?
No, not necessarily. I think considering each one on the merits, but at the moment we're leaving it up to groups to come clean and say they haven't, we haven't spent. Otherwise, we'd be frittered away. So.
No, it can't be. If they fill the form in after the do,
Then somebody's got to pick that up.
well, Rich and Andy go
Yeah.
through them every time, and then we're told about it.
There's not many who won't spend all they've got. It's unusual. We got money Home Valley 6 Home Valley Scouts, which I think is Honley, is it? Trinity, they gave us back a bizarrely large amount,
Yeah.
£800 or something last year.
And there'll be some who'll fiddle the invoices and fiddle it, but we can only do so much.
Absolutely right.
How do we know how much they're actually spending? I mean, do we get invoices, do we get receipts? So we can check exactly how much we are spending.
I mean, I don't suppose we're as methodical about it as we could be. I mean,
I'm not saying we should or we shouldn't, I just wonder
No.
if we did really.
I mean, the point, I mean, our auditor says that we should be asking for actual physical receipts. But up until now, we've got a lot on trust. They've tended to list, they've listed everything they say they've purchased.
I think we need physical receipts.
We probably should.
It's not our money, is it?
No.
It's Rich's time, however.
I have to sign them off.
Would it
Yeah, but your
suffice?
time's free.
Would it suffice? Would it suffice to do like a spot check of certain ones, random checks on some of them?
I think if you ask for
Just thinking
receipts and encourage receipts.
Yeah,
I think we should ask for receipts.
They can, these days, you can scan them with your telephone,
I
you
mean,
don't have to go.
I think in the evaluation reports that we're doing, we are getting more snarky about these things.
I think personally, there's a lot of reliance upon this. The good cause when they start out, they get through, obviously passed off by our parish councils and that one there. So we do believe them to be honest, decent people. But we need to be cautious that we don't oppress these people and appear like we demand everything because we don't trust them. It's not a working relationship. But I think we should be encouraging them to say that and thanking the likes of the cricket club for returning that money and saying we will welcome your application for furniture. But we need to set a precedent that we can't just let you keep the money anyway because other grants would obviously be affected by that. So I think we need to be really cautious that we don't just say, and we want this, and we want that, and we want the other, because people are going to start thinking that we're challenging them on their integrity, and I don't like that particular person.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, maybe we just have to keep a tight eye on the big ones. I mean, if some little group get given £100 and they only need 95. Of course I care a little bit, but
This is what Mary
I
said,
think
we
it's about-
propose that we take it on each individual one.
Yeah, when I'm listing the grant evaluation reports and the sort of start of the agenda, if you just check those and that's part of your reviewing process. If you pick up them that we're, underspent on X or whatever, then at that point we can, take action one way or the other.
I think we've got a lot of eyes in not just this committee but many other committees, and people are picking up on the details because of the conversations we're having around the room now. So I'd like to think we're not infallible to anybody who's going to want to try and pull the wool over our eyes, but I think generally speaking we're all fairly switched on and we are spotting these things, and I don't really think we should be oppressive towards them, but we should hope that if they do get an underspend that they will invite us to return the money to us and we can invite them to reapply again.
Maybe we should put something in that bit that says how to do your application about if you underspend, please return the money, because it's better that you reapply for the other things, but it goes back in the pot because there are many people, blah de blah.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know that one. Item 27, I think we're on.
Mary managed to spend all the money.
Change expenses. Budget 2024-25 is £1,000, no expenditure from the current budget has been made this year. Until 2023-24, £78 has been spent.
No.
You can't really add, unless it's been
I
doing
think
it.
part
And
of
the
that
remainder,
part of that 78 was me going as Mary's proxy to a dinner.
I can't believe that you charged 78 quid to council when Mary done so well all year, not spending any money.
Well, that's 23-24, I'm 24-25.
No, right, fair enough.
And part of that was I went to a dinner that was £30-some instead of Mary when I was vice chair. But I don't know what the other 30-some was.
Well,
Go to
no,
Malcolm.
Oh, we went together to a dinner as well. So that would be
Big spenders, these.
we did the highlight. We
They
put
ain't
our
got
big
any use for
necklaces
a
on.
barbecue, not in a brio.
so as it stands, I elected last year to donate the money, split the money
Yes.
between the two food banks, and I believe one of them serves Honley. There isn't a separate one for Honley. We did try and find out. So I thought that was something that all councillors would be happy with, a donation to the food bank.
I thought that Crossroads was not a food bank.
That's Meltham.
Oh, Meltham, sorry, that's a bit wrong.
Well, Crossroads does cover a bit of honour, but it's mainly full life that does honour.
Okay, item 28, possibility of reclaiming VAT on payments pertaining to buildings of the parish council owns. Would John like to just sort of summarise it?
Yeah, so as I say, you may remember at the last meeting we were discussing whether the potential was there for the parish council to pay invoices directly from work on this building which the parish council owns. But we have this relationship with the trust where they are 100% responsibility for repairs of the trust, as you know, as a trustee. Councillor Lyles said that she would speak to her accountant about it, and I sent her a couple of things about the way VAT works and when a council owns a village hall like this one. She passed that on to her accountant, and it must have taken him some time, this, because it was quite a big thing, the thing I sent him about the village hall. So, and I rang him and had a long chat. He was very, very helpful. He was very knowledgeable. He'd read this thing. I said, he didn't have any knowledge about village halls, but he'd read this thing that I'd sent him, and I think his advice was good. I mean, it's, you know, in a nutshell, he was essentially saying that we are not a business, and therefore how can we, in a sense, pay VAT as a business? His point is, you know, the nature of the relationship we've got with the trust is that the trust will have to agree to us paying directly for things. But I would suspect that the trust will be okay with it, because it would mean there's more money left for them in any pot that we have in the parish council for the civic hall.
Sorry, you've lost me. I thought you said we weren't a business and we couldn't pay the VAT. Now you're saying they want us to.
Yes.
No.
Should I try and explain it, Pat? Right, so, non-financially. So, because we own the building, we are allowed, if we, as the owners of the building, pay the bill, we, as the owners of the building, can get the VAT back. So we are entitled to claim the VAT back off the bill. The trustees of the civic are not entitled to do that. So if we pay the bill on behalf, instead of giving it to the civic for them to pay the bill, if we pay the bill and just don't give them the money for the building to repair it themselves, it'll cost us less because we are entitled to get the VAT back. So, there you go.
And
I
the same
have a
applies to
question
that.
though, because Honley Library is currently, the trustees there are currently sorting out VAT status for themselves.
No, won't bother.
Well, it's in process at the moment.
That's something to consider, isn't it?
That's certainly one to read.
Because if they, as you know, they could be about to spend a fortune on building if they get their, the grant.
I think it's well established that parish councils can do this, but the key bit is it's not just about the paperwork, it's the council needs to do the contracting. So that if they're setting the builder on, it's the parish council that's setting the builder on, signing the work off, paying for the work. So it could run into some conflict. It depends if who's paying towards it. If it's just and only parish council, that's not an issue. What the problem for someone like Holman would be is if you try and make out that the parish council, but if you try and make out that the parish council doing a lump of it, that might then mean that some of the grant requests aren't allowable for the rest of it. So then you want that bit of, is there a way to carve it up? And over time, easy, but for a major project, I just don't think that would be credible. But for somewhere like this to do, so a really good example would be is if the parish council had directly contracted for that fire escape and paid for that fire escape. I think that would be the simple one. But
And I think that's
it's a good route to look at, but it's a little bit more complicated and it involves the parish council in directly contracting.
Yeah, and a lot of work looking at competitive tenders and everything. Well, we can't, we don't have the manuals and stuff like that.
So whoever's doing it anyway, we could just piggyback off the back of it. It's just a case of that it have to go through Clark and Deputy Clark.
That's the plan. Yeah. No, I think the point is, as you say, that we would only get involved in this context with things where the parish council is the only payee. That there's not all these other grant streams. It's got to be just the parish council's money. So it wouldn't apply to every. There's all these developmental works they're doing, like they're doing the developing of the stairs, aren't they? There's various other things. I don't think that's the kind of thing we would get involved in because there's got grants coming in from everywhere.
a good example with the repairing of the roofs that we
roofs, all the floors.
it's the fabric of the building that we own.
And it's not developmental, it's repairs.
So the extension on Hornley Library,
Is development.
I think
we would own it once it was done, but it wouldn't.
Yeah, I don't think that would work because presumably there's money coming from all over the shop
Yes.
for it.
It has to be your money.
Yes, I think it's
Councillor Ryder, I think.
Question to Rich, are you satisfied that you've got enough measures in place to handle that with yourself and the clerk? So that it's just, I'm not sure whether you feel comfortable about the way it works and whether you can take that on board as well. Obviously, because there's been some discussion about getting different quotes and stuff. Obviously, there needs to be a definite separation between the civic society and the parish council now and there. It's just on you. If you think you've got the capacity and the measures in place, then I'd be inclined to sort of support it.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose, Councillor Breed was just saying about quotes. I mean, in a brief discussion I had with Dawn, the manager of the Civics, he was saying that they would still do that bit. It's just that the money would come from the parish council. Whether that's whether that's enough just to go on the basis of that, it was just one sentence conversation. I suppose it's about an agreement with the trust, essentially, about roles.
But wouldn't that legally, we would be the ones responsible for making sure we were getting best value. It wouldn't be internal and external auditors saying what you trust them to do is, even though you're. I mean, it's no different from us giving them the money and trusting them anyway, as we do at the moment, really. But I don't know legally whether it's.
A little bit of context behind what happens with the civic, I think you understand with the library, but the architects go out for quotes anyway, certainly 3, probably more. So that selection process is between the architects and the civic trustees and Dawn, and at that point the council could then say, right, we can place an order with Joe Bloggs because the process has already been done. it doesn't involve the likes of Rich having to go out and find contractors, far from it.
James,
Yes, that's right.
I'm wondering whether, would it be possible to investigate this on a small scale, so sort of baby steps? So we try it with something that's not going to be too much money and not going to be too difficult in terms of getting quotes, etc. Is it like an all or nothing?
It's all or nothing.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically,
So if we went down this route, then we do it for everything.
Potentially, you're right, though, we could, we've got the roof one, actually in process, haven't we?
It certainly can
And
be.
we can apply to that.
the thing is that we, as the parish, own the building, and we have the opportunity to claim the back for the building that we own. If the trustees decided tomorrow that they've had enough and it's hard work and they're off, it's still our building, and that's the basis of the claim that we can get the back. Because whether the trustees do one or not out of the door, it's still our building, so therefore the upkeep of the building is vatable. We can claim the money back and save. We're not breaking the law, we're not bending the rules. We own the building, it is our building, we pay all that money on insurance. The VAT's cover that we're going to pay out for all these repairs could pay that insurance. It'll be a lot of money.
And the other aspect is, from the perspective of the trust, it's beneficial to them because we can claim the money back. It means that the money's
Less.
still there,
Yeah.
but the money's still
We
there
can
then
give them
for
more
their
money,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. We can give them more money.
Absolutely.
This entire motion, this agenda item is to consider any further action to this one. So my question would be, is it something that we can now agree on this evening, or do we need to take this to full council? Is my question.
I have a feeling in the water it should go to full council. But
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, the thing is because of amounts of money, I suppose, isn't it? Because of, you know.
To be fair, I know coming up at full council, we're going to be talking around a few issues, aren't we, that's connected
Yeah.
with this.
Yeah.
So
It's kind
It
of
could
organising
easily be
together.
awesome.
Yeah. I think that's probably sensible.
Can I therefore make a proposal that my proposal is that we, in theory, we agree with this claimant of the VAT.
So recommend to council.
Recommend that to full council, that we all take a vote on that one there.
are we all in favour of that? Thank you. Item 29, schedule of payments.
So the first two are just a note, the one for April and May, and then the third one for June is to approve the two in yellow, basically.
I have looked through these, but I've slept since then.
I've checked and they're alright.
So in terms of the ones,
Is there anything that we need
so in
to
terms of the two you're approving, one is for the think before you park pavement signs for Brockhole School work, because it's an out of the ordinary payment, you have to authorise it. And then the other one is the grant for the defibrillator maintenance at Hongley Business Association, which I don't think is controversial.
No.
do we need to vote?
Would you want that last item?
Move it,
In favour?
Where have we got to? Item 30, financial statements.
Mm-hmm.
So we're noting the sums for April.
Noted.
Noted everyone. For May, which to report.
I mean, I don't suppose I need to report especially. I think it's more about further down where we go through the income and expenditure report and the earmark reserve report. I suppose the only thing to say, remember me having that long monologue about levels of reserves.
How could we fix
It's
it?
not a single one.
Can you refresh us?
I feel it's important you know we have no idea what any of that was about.
And it was robbing Peter to pay Paul.
It's moving money around.
Yeah, so things are better. I mean, we need to be more aware about when November comes round, because at the moment we've got the 175 and 80,000 from the precept in May. We've got tons of money related to our expenditure, but it's obviously going to go down and down over the next several months. So we need, when we get to November, we need to keep an eye on how much we've got then. So I will be keeping an eye on it.
Good.
Thanks, Rich.
Robert, you.
Next week.
Right, where are we at then?
So the next bit's about the bank reconciliations,
Yes,
which I know is boring, but
yeah. Have a look at these, yes. Councillor to review the income and expenditure report for May.
you need to
We need to vote on that, so
approve the bank reconciliations against the statements.
okay.
Is that not
So
what the internal accountant does?
No, the committee has to do it now.
We need to do it as well.
Yes.
Well, why does Jo have to come in and do it on her own?
She's checking all the receipts against the payments.
Ah,
You're not doing that. You're just checking the
right, we're just doing the
reconciliations.
statements against it, right, okay.
All you're doing is checking the amount at the end of the month that it matches with the amount on the statement at the end of the month.
Thank you.
Move to approve that one.
You can come and sit with me next time.
I've done that, I did that, John.
So where are we at now? Income and expenditure for May.
Yeah, we're on page 100.
Oh, yeah. $100.
Okay, well, most of it's there. What I've pointed out, as I've just said, we've had 50% of the precepts, we've had 50% of the special expenses grant. The next half of it will be in November. We've received all of our garage rentals. We've received, and they've all been banked now. We've had all of our allotments rentals. It's all been banked. The Gartside building, they are making progress, as you're aware, with tenants in that, so hopefully there'll be news about that. We're now about bang on with our bank interest. We were way under last year because the rates have gone up. Anything else worth saying there? I think that's all that needs to be said about on the income side of things. On the expenditure side, salaries a little over. I had to make an additional payment for pensions last year because of something that a system change going way back to when I started, we started off paying we were paying in arrears, and it suddenly started we were paying the month we were in, so it all got a bit messy. So that's partly why that's rather higher than was expected. One thing we weren't expecting, unfortunately, was the increase in insurance. You probably remember when we set our insurance budget, it was before we had the Civic revalued, and it went up, I think, from like 6 million or 5 million to 9 million. And unfortunately, that does show in our insurance premium, which has gone up to 11,851. Though I suppose the only thing to say about that is we will claim a lot of that back because the Civic pays for their share of the insurance, so it might be them who are struggling to pay it rather than us.
You're aware? I'm sure she is.
We have discussed it, yeah. There's a little note there about, it's a very small thing, but it's probably worth pointing out that in Honley Library at the moment we've only got 15,000 quid, but there's often other little bits and bats that come out of it, so it's probably helpful to put a little bit more in that next year. So that's the income expenditure. I don't know if anybody got any points they want to make or ask or.
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. And then the next bit is the earmark reserves. Obviously, there's been lots of earmark reserves being created. What's the opposite of created? Disestablished. Money. You know, there's been money moving into some, money moving out of others. So it's been quite complicated last month with this. So as you can see, we've got 150,000 in earmarked reserves. No, Andy, you had some comments about.
I mean, generally, I'm quite keen that we monitor these fairly closely. I do think that it's very easy to set these earmarked reserves up without any real thought about what we're doing with them, and then we find ourselves with chunks of money that are going nowhere. If we've got a definite plan for something, then that's fine, isn't it? But quite often, the reason that we put that money there has disappeared and it seems to sit there forevermore. And I guess it's part of our remit as this committee to keep an eye on these things, isn't it? And question whether actually they're still valid, whether they're needed, or whether they should be returned to reserves. Not particularly wanting to go through any of these at the moment. I don't think there's anything that stands out as a rich there.
No, I don't think so. I mean, obviously, lots of committees are not even met yet to even start deciding what they're going to do with their money. So it's very early days to start thinking about getting money.
In our defence, I don't think we do carelessly earmark reserves. I don't think that is a fair thing to say. The only one where it was very vague was the playgrounds one, which itched on and on for years and years. Everything else has had thought and
I don't think, when I say carelessly, I didn't mean that
I mean, we do have ones like, for example, the Honley Library, 15,000. I mean, I don't quite know. They seem to be able to self-manage their funds, and they're finding money from here, there, and everywhere. Where with regard, we're contractually obliged to pay them this 15,000 quid a year for running costs, but they were sort of saying, well, we don't really need that, but it's in the contract. So,
well, and also they do, because new things come up, and I mean, it's something we could discuss, but if they are doing better than any of us thought they would, including them, what they're currently doing is being ambitious about how they can use what it is they're anticipating, the 1,500. We could say, no, we will look at it every year, and you might not get 1,500 if you've managed to find that.
15,000.
But that would then pull back their ambitions for the building and what they can achieve with it. So it's...
Well, no, the 15,000 is contracted. We can't talk away out of that anyway. That's done. We've signed it. That's done.
Yeah.
It's this 15,000 that's in an earmark reserve that I don't quite know what it's for. That was my only point. What's it for? That's part of Councillor Wilson's.
And I think.
Well, I think originally it was in there because nobody knew how much it was going to cost to get. How many repairs would be needed, what sort of a state the building would be in. It was put there as because we don't know. And it's a relatively small sum if it were something of that sort. It's now no longer that.
And these are the sort of things we need to revisit, aren't they?
Yeah.
Is that still required for that purpose it was put there? And if it's not, then let's be honest about it and move it. And I was thinking more about, we've done it in the past with the climate emergency, haven't we, where we've not spent budget and we've just rolled it forward into next year as an EMR, but
You did that,
no
you did that
specific
planning.
Oh, don't say that.
You did do that with planning. You did do that with
But,
planning.
We did that with an awful lot of stuff, and whatever word you want to use for it, it needs to be sorted out at some point.
I think it's a case of monitoring it, isn't it, and being honest about it and saying, we've rolled it forward, or put an earmark reserve for what we thought was a good reason. We're not going to achieve that now, let's be clear about it and put it back.
Can I just
Sort of
clarify?
categories.
Yeah, on the online library bit, so just to clarify, because the 15,000 was for the running costs. So, I can't see how they're not needing, I can't see how online library's not needing that money, because they will have the costs of running the building to.
No, this
to
was an additional one-off 15,000.
So they'll need the £15,000 annual running costs, but I believe that this 15,000 earmarked reserve came about because we provided that we'd set aside the £15,000 running cost in the financial year because of the extensive delays in doing the asset transfer. That responsibility hadn't passed over to Friends of Homley Library at that point. So we had 15 grand to roll forward, and we rolled it forward into an earmarked reserve. Perhaps what we should have done is just return it to general reserves on the basis of we've correctly jumped the gun and we just quickly stuff for every day to complete it. But that's where the 15,000 came from, I believe, which was the fact that they didn't need to take up the running costs in that year because of all those delays. They're obviously going to need the running costs going forward, and as Richard said, there's a contractual obligation to provide that. This £15,000, there's a choice with it. Realistically, it can go towards building works that they've got planned, or it should be disestablished and returned to general reserves. And there's quite a few, I think, that fit that bill. I really do. I think there's quite a few where we have carelessly in the right word because it was done. It was done with
Good
knowledge.
intentions, that.
Yeah. But I raised this when we're setting the precepts that actually we've got some money here, we've got some money there, we've got some money here, we've got some money there, and a lot of it's duplication, and a lot of it gets carried forward. And actually, we need to have a look at what we've got earmarked. There's a lot of money in there, and if there's a purpose for it, it needs to move on. And if there isn't a purpose for it, it needs to be disestablished.
As it stands, 150,000, which is a lot,
In my book.
half of our income, isn't it? Sorry.
Is this a full list of all the earmarked reserves?
Yeah, of course.
Do you want us to go through it now, or?
No, I don't.
No.
I
We
think
should
Councillor
do.
Wilson's
That's
point. Councillor
what
Wilson.
Charles is saying is that we should do that. So I'm just.
No, but I mean, the fact is,
some
I mean,
time to do that.
we've got a lot. Well, a lot of committees have not even met this year.
Yes.
Like the service provision earmark reserves, a lot of those have only just been set up. Tourism, public transport, litter as a sort of an extension of the dog waste one. Those are all new, so I don't think we can possibly start going through before they've even had a look at them.
So
As
when
time
is a good
goes on.
time to look at them?
As time goes on, we can question.
Why
the
don't
stuff.
we identify the ones that are lurking around and have been lurking around for a while, put them on an agenda where it's probably only going to be half a dozen, I would guess, where we can definitely say we haven't a clue why that's still there, or
Well,
to
I
that
mean,
effect. And we can discuss them
I
and
suppose
leave the
I
others alone.
suppose the reason I listed them all out was to give a little bit of a narrative about them. I'm quite happy to work through them if that's what you want to do.
Okay, time wise.
Yeah. We're bang on at the moment.
Would that be?
Yeah, let's go
useful?
through them, we should.
Okay, yeah, I'm happy to do it.
So as you can see, we got rid of the CCTV one because that's going to be a rolling grant now. So I don't know whether you realise that further down we've now got a rolling grant CMR. So all the ones that we tentatively set up without yet seeing all the paperwork, like the Festival of Folk, the Arts Festival, Home Valley Patient Transport, Friends of Cliff Wreck. All of that money is in the rolling grant earmark reserve and it's been taken out of the grant line essentially.
So they're all getting aggregated into rolling grants reserve.
Yes, they're in a reserve, and it's, like I say, it's been deducted from this year's, what do we call that grant? The projects and events budget line, essentially. The community assets, others in the home valley, so 1,000 of that, 1,000 of that, as you're aware, is for the CCTV for Honley that we've agreed to pay today, so that will go down by 1,000 anyway. The other 2017, and I, you know, we have discussed this before, and probably it is worthwhile just saying to the New Mill Scouts, can we just remove the money out? They basically they wanted it to, as part of the funding for their scout hut, but this scout hut seems to get no nearer getting anywhere, so perhaps we just ask for it back and say, because I would imagine the Parish Council will support an application if they reapply, but it's just sitting there doing nothing at the moment with no purpose, so I suppose there's a sense in which we just tell them that.
So that's one we could vote on. Shall we vote on them one at a time, do you think?
Okay.
So we withdraw that grant.
We voting now.
Yeah, they can
We've already had the
it's
informed
council.
to reapply in the
So
future.
2017, we're going to tell the Scouts that
The grant's been withdrawn,
The
well,
grant's
welcome to
withdrawn,
reapply in the
yeah.
future.
But that isn't that we're not sympathetic.
no. The election fund, as you're aware, that's we've got to have 30,000 by the time of the next cycle. We've obviously just had elections, so we will have less than 7,000 anyway once all the bills come in. So we'll probably find that we need to be putting more in next year than 7,000 just to get us to kind of 15 at the end of next year.
How much are we topping that up each year, Richard?
By about 7 or 8,000 essentially.
Okay. So perhaps we could move that 2017 into that elections reserve.
Okay.
Good idea, move to approve.
Very good.
The defibrillator reserve, as you may or not be aware, so that's service provision, and it's essentially paying only for the defibrillators that we are responsible for, which are our own two, one here and one outside the toilet. We're also considering taking on, I think, 2 more that we don't own, but they don't currently have somebody to pay for the supplies essentially. So that's something that service provision are looking at. I think there's a resolution for their meeting in July.
Is there an ongoing budget line for defibs?
For well, there's no money in it, if that's what you're asking, just an earmark reserve.
So there's no ongoing budget, just this earmark reserve.
So any payment will go through that budget line, but it will come from the earmark reserve.
Would it not make more sense to set up an actual budget and not to have it through as an earmark reserve?
If they want to do that, yeah.
Is there service provision or full council?
Service provision.
Should we recommend that we do that?
Where the finance committee are.
It'd be a better way of doing it, wouldn't it, I think?
I think this is the first year we've ever actually paid anything out from it. That's the thing. I've been here for 5 years, and we've only paid once from this this pot.
I've just done one recently where the batteries, changing the battery costs a fair few quid, but each time it's used, new pants should be put in that can.
Yeah, that's what it is.
70 quid. I
Yeah,
sponsor the
that's
ones that
Yeah,
Bar
well
side.
done, Joe. Well done.
So it kind of depends what the state of those batteries are. But
Well, they've all been checked. I think
well, this is going to be an
an
ongoing recurring expenditure, so I think it's far more suited to a revenue budget than it is to a reserve budget because of its ongoing nature. But it'd be up to service provision to work out. So perhaps we should leave this as it is and ask service provision for the future budget round to look at
Put something in there.
a running budget for it. And I don't know, maybe we should suggest a grant, because I think that would cover any years where they're going to need to have batteries swapped over, might generate a surplus. But then rather than creating a marked reserve at the year end, that could just be swept into general reserves.
Yeah.
Well, it's up to service provision. 500 might do the trick, but 1,000 certainly would.
Yeah, I mean, the advantage of that is that they can pay the money direct. You know, it's their decision. If it's coming from the earmark reserve, everything has to go to council, so everything takes longer.
Yeah, and we want to avoid that
Better
kind of
being in the
stuff.
budget.
Yeah. Civic has 30,000. This is separate to the roof. So that, you know, this potentially will be you know, part of their ongoing planning over the next 10 years. They have got a business plan which has 10 years worth of works. I think this is something.
Without going into it too much now, it'll be on the full council meeting on the 24th anyway, this, so.
Yeah, we're discussing, we need to understand it in order to vote on it, Andy.
Yeah, it's there for,
Is there some specific items of work that this has been reserved for?
yes.
No, not when it was set up. No,
Not when it was set up, but
Not when it was
now.
set up. The
So
point-
you've spent it now, 'cause it's there.
No, it's
It's
not
not spent.
It's endless, the things that should and could be done to this building.
Yes.
And 30 grand doesn't come near.
That is the dialogue. It's part of the dialogue.
There will
We
be,
just burn it down, I think.
there will be an ongoing requirement for funding for this building, for the maintenance.
But again, is that not part of the running budget that we've got a running budget and then we've got a reserve budget?
Yes, and I think in future, and we've talked about this, haven't we, it doesn't have to go in any amount reserve, does it?
No,
This could be part of service provisions budget line.
It can,
It's part of the role of an earmarked reserve to be an emergency fund almost, because this
No,
building has
no,
constant
no, no,
emergencies that nobody expected to come.
it's meant to be to build up funds for an
That
actual
particular
project.
thing, right.
Yeah.
It's for
Because we
planning
need a
purposes.
slush fund for this building.
Well, that's part of the dialogue to have at council. You know, that it is a
Maybe we should
it is a
put that
complicated issue.
Good question to yourself, Andy. Obviously, you're on the civic the group there. The works that are required, £30,000 worth of work. I assume now that you have projects which will absorb that amount of money in there, and that will be taken by, and you can take that to full council to be just there. So I would suggest that we
That's what will be happening.
default on our deciding about that earmark reserve until we get a proposal for the expenditure for it, because it may well be just moving it for the sake of moving it one way and then back. So
Yeah,
if we just hold on that.
I'd agree with you entirely on that, David. I think the bigger issue here is what is this plan for this building? What are the expectations, and how are we planning? How have we agreeing it, and how are we planning and preparing for it? Because it feels like we're constantly on the back foot, or something happens, or we've got another bill for you to pay. I just find that a bit of an unusual arrangement. I really do.
I agree, and I think
And I don't see that replicated anywhere else.
we've been trying to get away from that. I think we're now in a position where we have a 10-year plan, and we're coming up at full council, as I said. I don't think there's much point going through it all now.
But just to be clear, Tech might ask us, but we're quite capable of saying no. We're not capable of saying no to the Civic, but we should be.
Well, we
We can say no to the Civic. We can absolutely say no to the Civic.
We can.
Yeah.
As a record,
Yeah, put
Make
so.
no sense.
and how many times have we said no to the
I
Civic?
say no regularly, thank you very much.
When it comes to the end of it, we all know it.
We own the building, it's different,
Well,
don't we?
Well, then we'll go back to it, but Honley Library aren't running up thousands and thousands of bills and just sending us the receipt to sort out, are they? Do you know what I mean? It's that kind of thing.
Well, Holly Library up to now hadn't had unexpected holes in the roof, and they have, it's a tiny building. This is not. There's millions of problems with it. It's not really fair to compare the management of the two buildings. But the people downstairs, first of all, were not employed to do that job. They were employed to fundraise. And secondly, just stuff happens in this building. And
Well,
to,
that's true in all buildings, the scale of the
I'm
buildings.
aware of that.
Well, can I come out, call on?
But
We're going to be going over this in full.
The important bit with this is the full council needs to see what the 10-year plan is for this building,
Yeah.
and understand it,
Yes.
that's the key point.
Yes, I think we should move on.
What else have we got?
Outside building.
So council building, what that £5,000 is for, I'm not entirely sure. They have created a new toilets refurb budget, earmark reserve with £4,100. I mean, they will need more than £4,000 to do the refurb they need. I would suspect that they will have to go to the Gartside building earmark reserve as well.
well, can I propose that we move it into their, we ask to move it into
If they need that
their budget rather than
Altogether.
I wasn't sure why they needed to create the separate toilets refurb myself. I didn't quite see the point of that, but
Well, maybe they'll think about it if we ask them to.
Sorry, did you not advise them to do it, or advise them not to do it, Rich?
I didn't advise them either way. They said it came up as a resolution, and they said they wanted to set it up as a separate one. So that's what happened.
Case.
Case.
Was it something to do with the sills?
No.
No.
When are the works likely to take place on the toilet refurb, Rich? Do we know?
I mean, I think they're really it's mainly to do with the reflooring it. I think.
Yeah.
I don't know
It's
anything.
imminent. Are we moving things around for the sake of moving them around if it's going to be imminent? Or we not wait to see what happens financially with the project?
I suppose the question here is, well, are they even aware that they've got a £5,000 earmark reserve? And what do they
Surely
want?
we're
What's the
going
plan for
through-
it? What's the plan for it though?
But we're going through these in order to get them out of here and into a budget where
I mean,
it's
it's not-
possible, aren't we?
Perhaps they, I think, because obviously we've got the shop unit is going to be let, and there will be money relative to that as well. You know, there will be things needed doing. So perhaps it's about that money being there for whatever we need to do with refurbing that, and then they can decide to do.
But can we suggest to service division that they move it out of earmarked and into
It's a
budget?
case.
Well,
Can I just say, I went to the outside building with Gemma just this last week and with EPICS, and that they were talking about things that needed doing, you know, a window in there would make it great, you know. and a few
We've
other
talked
things.
several times about it.
Yeah, so having some money specifically for the outside, as well as for the toilet refurbishment, seems, I mean, it could come together, but so long as there is enough money for both those things, I think it will be good.
Can I just say though, for a window you're going to have to have planning permission.
There's already a lintel there and.
No, you can't just knock a window in there, you'll have to get.
Nobody's intending to knock a window through with a hammer and go down there and just.
Well, you never know.
I don't think that was on Jane's mind at all.
planning permission for the solar panels, so I think, you know, refurbishing that unit altogether with the appropriate permission, whatever was needed,
Yeah.
is desirable.
I think the point is here, there
There's
should be a
somebody
plan
there to
behind
do
it,
it.
shouldn't there?
Yes,
It-
and I
And
think
there may
the
be.
plan is evolving, it might not be there yet.
And it's in our interest, if we make that a more valuable unit and a more appealing unit, for the future, it augurs well for us to get better rents and things.
Can I ask what the same as Charles suggested for the civic building there, that any plans for future development are brought forward to either full council or to the case committee, and then it's presented to everybody so that, you know, there's lots of, we can leave money there just in case something, or we might want to decorate or something like that on there, but these all need to be, you know, assessed separately and planned for in the budgets. So if we can ask them to provide proposals on where they're going to spend this money, other than that, to take it back into just their normal reserves in the meantime.
Well, I'm suggesting that we recommend to them they put it into their budget and take it out of earmarked reserve.
You can't put it into the budget.
It's a good general reserve, isn't it?
Yeah, once your budget is set, your budget is set. It doesn't work.
But you've just said they're going to need more money than they budgeted for.
That's an EMAC reserve.
I think
they can have access to the EMAC
I
reserve.
think this is one of the perhaps needs to be revisited once the new tenant's in and this work has been done. But personally, I'd like to see earmarked reserves of exactly this nature, which the toilets refurb, specific purpose, planned expenditure, suitable for an earmarked reserve. Showing £5 aside, because we might need to do something in the future with this building, but we're not really sure what that is or when that may be, is not an appropriate earmarked reserve in my book.
I agree with
That,
that.
you know, that's what general reserves exist for, what might happen.
Councillor Rana.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you at all. But I think with some of these, I don't think that we necessarily know what the intention
No,
would be and what they were discussing at the meeting. And, you know, we might just end up with case and with service provision. They'll then be saying, well, why have you done that? That was, we deliberately did that.
That is our
for a
job.
particular.
But then that goes back to Damien's
Particular
point
reason.
about, he says, tell us what the plan is then.
No, but I mean, as you were saying, that some of these committees haven't met yet. So
I think the question is,
we just need to be a little
is
bit
there a plan
careful
behind this
in
£5,000?
making these decisions, I think.
And if there's a plan behind it, then that's fine, isn't it? If it's,
But what if there's a plan we don't know about? But what if just we in this group are not sure about what the
Well, it's about asking them what it's for. It's not being judgmental. It's just a question. It's just a question.
I just propose that we ask Case
Yes.
to highlight what that earmarked reserve is for.
Service provision.
What was Case?
Case?
Service provision
No,
doesn't
service
allow
provision.
and don't.
So yes, our service provision, if they what their intentions with it,
Okay.
and let us know.
Okay.
That's what everybody else.
oh, well, okay.
Can we move on? This it's a bit depressing.
We're only after it.
Holly Library we've discussed. Holly Library we've discussed. Royal Events, you're aware, is at Menai Bridge.
Yeah.
Cody Memorial, I know Councillor Blacker is on with that.
What did we agree about Honley Library? We discussed it, we agreed nothing.
Yeah, we've just discussed it though, so.
Well, are we going to stop it being an earmarked reserve and put it into general or not?
I would say the same applies as we've just talked about. Is there a plan behind that 15,000?
Again, that's a service provision discussion. It's for them really to say if they use, if they've got a plan for it.
So that's our resolution, service provision. What's it for?
Yeah.
I mean, I think we can make recommendations to service provision if it's our belief it's not been specifically.
But we don't really know. This is the point.
At this point, we don't know. do we?
So it's just about a simple question. What's this for? What's this
People
for?
are
What's
kind
this
of
for?
bandying, well, it was just rolled over, oh, it was just this, oh, nobody thought, oh, we've been careless. And I'm pinning this down. I want to know how many of these are careless and how many of them aren't, because these allegations have been made more than once.
Well, the issue is, for any earmarked reserve, there must be a planned purpose. So what's the plan? And if there isn't a plan at the point at which the earmarked reserve is made, it ought not to have been made.
Yes, and that's why I keep saying, tell them to put it in their budget or recommend to them that they justify it.
But for
And
most,
people go, oh no, we can't do that.
for most of
We
these,
either
the
do
plan
or
is
we don't.
coming months, if not years, after the earmarked reserve. It's the cat before the horse.
I don't think we necessarily know that.
Do you have anything to say about October Memorial?
It'll be spent by the end of this year, actually,
Right, good.
Your plans.
Can I just go back to Menai Bridge? Is that King Charles?
Yes.
It's still
Don't mention it. Don't say anything.
Camera.
Don't say anything.
Sensitive.
You're not allowed to say anything about this, councillor.
Well, my comment would be is do we need an earmarked reserve?
That was discussed
That was discussed.
at the full council meeting downstairs, and we agreed that it was, all of us agreed it was required.
Which one are we on?
Menai Bridge, you finance.
Ah, yeah.
The contingency one.
Yeah, we discussed that
We did.
downstairs, full council, and everybody agreed, didn't they? Everybody
Yes,
agreed?
I mean, and it had some urgency, I mean, then, you know.
Yeah.
The
Can we
personal question is
get
not.
off this? Can we get off this?
Yeah.
Anyway, next.
We're on children's
Put
play.
him on the
playgrounds,
notes now,
with-
we're gonna have to leave.
Children's playgrounds, you're aware that's been disestablished. All the money's gone back into general reserves.
Woohoo!
Climate action projects. Obviously, we're waiting for the planning permission for the solar panels. That's going to be about 10,000 quid, I think. The cost for that is about 10 grand and possibly a bit more. So a lot of that will go for that project alone. Road safety, we've got 2 SIDS. One of them's actually in service, the other one's been ordered. Nobody's invoiced us for any of them, so but we're expecting to be invoiced at some point. And then we're also waiting to pay for a second order of school parking bollards, which you just approved today. And I think that's like 500 quid or something like that. There'll still be a bit of money in that pot. I know there was discussion about planning in the last meeting about what they do with that, about whether they find, you know, it's part of a resolution that you're discussing at your next meeting, I think, isn't it? Staff pay was was created after the last council meeting, I think.
Well, it came from staffing, didn't it?
The rolling grants we've discussed, that lays out what they're for, and as we know, some of them are pending the fact that we get all the documentation, but these are the ones that we kind of provisionally agreed. And then the other ones, mostly these are service provision ones, and are new that, as we've said repeatedly, they haven't met yet. So the plans for the public transport, tourism, and dog waste, you know, that's for them to work on. The community engagement one is, again, I think partly that's to do with the website that's being developed. The website's going to go to a different web provider. Civic roof repairs you'll be aware of, and the Home for Toilets refurb was created at the last council meeting.
Just a general one, rather than us picking pieces at everybody over separate ones there, can each committee be reminded of so there's an appropriate use for earmarked reserves, rather than us bashing each one individually, just say that they're used for a certain reason and you must have a project in mind to use out there, and that it might just save us doing this again at this length.
Yeah, good idea.
Seconded.
Okay. Thank you very much. Where did we get to?
Fixed assets. 31.
So this is basically so the amount of fixed assets turns up on our AGAR, our annual governance and accountability return. So every year we have to kind of do a recalculation about our assets. We've only acquired one more asset this year, which was the topograph, which cost us £9,446.90. So that's gone on to the valuation since last year, and that will go on to our annual return with a new figure of 5281,344. The only other change I've made is to put the new valuation of the Civic in, which is £9,974,250.
That doesn't show on the AGAR, does it? Is that last year's figure that's in there?
What do you mean?
It says something like 5 million for the...
That's different. You've got an annual return value and an insurance value. The insurance value is £9 million, but the annual return value is not £9 million. The annual return value is fixed at £5 million.
What's that? How's that different online?
It should. I mean, in my opinion, it should be £1. The value of the Civic should be £1. But for some reason, it was before I got here. It was reclassified as £5 million. So I will be asking our internal auditor what she thinks about that. I think we're stuck with the £5 million now, to be honest. But everything else that we bought, like Honley Libraries, is just listed as £1. The value of Honley Library is £1. The value of the phone boxes is £1. In terms of the Civic, it's listed here as costing us £1, but it's in terms of the annual return. Since before I came, it's been listed at the value of £5 million.
So why is Honley Library £1?
Because that's what we paid for it. It was an asset transfer.
It's a legal figure, isn't it?
It's just
It's
another.
a total and real figure.
It's a legal figure, but that's why I'm confused by the 5 million. I don't know why that's
This
changed.
cost £1 as well.
Some of those are value that just got entered into the records.
I think that's
Probably an
probably,
omission.
I think that's probably what's happened, but I suspect the internal auditor will say, well, you can't stop with it now as well.
Well, but then you've got an explanation to do for the loss of 4,900,000
I suppose it's.
from the asset.
We've got a few anomalies, haven't we? 'Cause if you look on there, we've got public seats, which has got a nil value, but Queen's Diamond Jubilee seats are worth just shy of 13
I think
annual.
we paid for them, I think, whereas the seats just came.
I'm sure we'll pay for the seats at some point. They're not going to be 50 years.
Well,
old.
whenever they first set this up, I think the seats were just considered part of the deal, really, whereas the new purchases were a different ballgame.
I mean, it's a funny one. You could argue like the Civic, whilst insurance value is 11 million, what its true value is perhaps what you could sell it for. And then of course,
Which is probably a penny.
well, exactly. That's the point, isn't it? It's a bit like an allotment. You know, if an allotment has to be an allotment, its values are quid. But
I'll ask the auditor, and she's good on these kind of things, and about whether we can undo any of it. I suspect we probably can't, but it's worth asking the question.
You could put an accounting anomaly in, I suppose.
Yeah, well, I thought about that because we have to explain variances on the AGAR, so it may be possible to do that.
if you're going to do it, you want to do it as a single hit, don't you?
When you look at some of these, when you look down the list, you do sort of wonder, don't you?
Well, what the advice that the advice that is given here in this key bit is that your original purchase cost, the figure in column B would normally be the same as figures in column A, but mainly they're not. The ones that were here when I came, they aren't. The values have changed, which is why it's a bit confusing.
We've got 24 bush shelters that's value of nothing, and a topograph that shows
So a bush shelter's worth none, but the store.
Just see what, doesn't it?
Yeah, but sorry. Cal.
Anyway.
It's just I feel that the piano, who owns the piano?
Which piano?
Piano.
Downstairs.
The grand piano.
Well, you can have it for a quid.
I have no idea. It's not on our
No,
list.
it's not on this list, we don't know it. No, somebody asked me the question.
Formerly
Here and
known as
somebody.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe we need to push down piano into the building.
Now we've no piano in the building, it's only worth a quid.
Can we move to approve the fixed assets?
Second.
If Rich could possibly go and ask the auditor how we can potentially get rid of the ridiculous figure for this building.
Yeah.
If we take the piano out of the building,
It's expensive grand piano, that. Liver actually played it.
Okay, we're on item 32, I think, aren't we now? AGAR?
Yeah, I appreciate that a lot of this is very hard to understand because, even from my point of view, it's basically a computer program that throws up these figures. So there's a sense in which you're trusting me and I'm trusting a computer program. So these are the things we have to submit to the AGAR. So it needs to go to council to be approved by council, and then we have to basically announce to the public that they can view the records starting at least on the 1st of July and covering the first 10 days in July. And so I don't think there's anything particularly controversial in the figures. The fixed asset figure is what we've just discussed in column 9. Everything else is calculated by the programme, so it's very clever that it does all this for you. I don't actually have to do a lot with it other than transfer the figures from the programme onto this sheet that the external auditor asks for. As you can see, our balance carried forward to the start of this year was £221,342. That's the amount of reserves that we had, earmarked reserves and general reserves. Don't know whether anybody's got any questions about the accounting statements.
No.
And then the other bits are, as you can see, are section 3 and section 4 are both blank at the moment. The internal audit report, Safia fills that in. And then once she's done that bit, once it's gone to council, we send off all of that, the supporting paperwork and section 3 to the external auditor. In terms of the additional paperwork, again, this is basically we have a website. Our external auditor's website has all of these templates, and it basically tells me which ones I need to fill in based on the size of our council. So most of it's fairly obvious and fairly easy because we don't have checks. The bank reconciliation is very easy. Our cash book and our bank account both always tend to balance, so that's quite okay. The reconciliation between box 7 and box 8, that's because of the size of our council, we have to operate by what's called an income and expenditure process. So we have to account for expenditure and payments in the year which they occurred. So that form is basically doing that, is moving money between years to make them apply to the correct year. The next bit is the explanation of variances. Again, the programme kicks this out, and basically you have to make a comment if you're above a certain amount. What is it about above? If you've got a variance over 15%, you've got to put an account of why it's over 15%. As you can see, the only one of ours that was over 15% was our other receipts. So I put a little table there about why we were over that figure, and I've basically listed 3 significant things there, one of which was the return of the grant from Honley Football Club, is that what it's called?
That's it, yeah. Honley
Junior Football Club, which was unexpected £1,702, and obviously the insurance had gone up, that was about an extra 700, and the other thing was interest rates, which amazingly we got £3,000 more than we did the previous year, which was crazy. So that's that box. There's a list of contacts, a declaration that the accounts are audited, and then the letter that we sent to Kirklees about our precept. So that's basically it. So you're basically approving to recommend that to council.
Approved.
Thank you. Item 33, tenancies. So we're noting all payments. Noted.
Yeah.
Thank you. Item 34. New model financial regulations from now.
Yeah, I mean, what we got these before annual council, and we did think about, should we just revert everything to the previous one and just submit it and have council approve it. I think, in the context of the work that Councillor Whitelaw and Councillor Green are doing, I think it's probably quite useful if we treat, working through the financial regulations and making amendments to the financial regulations to make them work for the parish council. I think it's probably worth doing as a,
Sorry. Can we just go back to page 112?
Well, hang on, I'd like to hear the end of Rich's sentence.
Well, my suggestion was that a working group would be useful to consider the financial regulations and work through all of it and try and make it work for, so that the parish council is working more efficiently. That would be my suggestion.
Yeah.
So a working group to look at these NELC
Well, the thing is about the financial regulations, there's lots of stuff there about levels of things, you know, when you can give approval, you know. At the moment, obviously, each committee can authorise payments up to £5,000. Council, you have to go to council anymore. Now, I suppose it's, if we think that that holds up the work of the parish council, holds up the work of the committees, you know, a working group could consider changing that to facilitate working.
It's worth looking at.
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Who would like to be part of the working group?
Oh shit, we money me.
I'm prepared to be part of the working group.
Well done.
I'm happy to do as well. Anyone else? One more would be useful.
Well, we can be a working group of two for the time
Somebody
being.
who's not here might be.
Yes.
I nominate Isaac.
But would he be
So
able to make
provision-
it?
Yeah, good point.
Provisionally
Okay, yeah.
pack myself and we'll see if we can
I think
Joel one of the
we should make Rich a member, ask Rich if he's willing to be a member though. Obviously
Yes.
not doing clerking stuff or anything
Sure.
like that, just because he's the one that understands.
Okay. Are we okay with that?
I think Council Green wants to go back to something, Council.
Sorry, councillor.
Page 112, it's not a big one, it just needs to be June, not July on that one.
Which one?
The public rights statement.
Mention that to
June,
us.
25th June.
No, that's when it will be.
That's when it, no, that's fine, no, that's the day after the meeting, that is. That's not, that's just when the notice is being published.
So you're announcing it on Monday the 24th of June. And the public rights period commences 25th of June.
Yep.
And ends on Monday the 5th of August.
Yeah.
Okay.
Something like that, yeah.
So the confirmation statement needs to say Tuesday the 25th of June.
It does. Commencing Tuesday the 25th of June and ending on Monday the 5th of August.
So
So
it's on
June,
which
yeah.
one want to?
It's July, it's got July.
Oh, God, yeah, you're right.
But that is when it will commence, isn't it?
No, it's June.
No, it's not, is it? It's July.
It's not, it's June, because you need 5 weeks or whatever it is.
You are right.
You had it right, you've done it
Yeah, you're
correct
right.
on the long one.
You're
it's just-
absolutely right.
it's just-
You're absolutely right. Yep, good spot.
Guess what I would do? No. Rich, guess what I was doing this morning?
No, good spot. It saves me having the internal auditor having a problem.
Okay.
Yep.
So I think we're on item 35, internal control checks.
If this new working group presumably would influence whether we approve what we're doing already.
We do need to do this now, though, ahead of the AGM.
Right. So this is for
But
prior to the
But
working
yes,
group.
you are right. But yeah, we do need to agree this anyway.
Okay, thank you.
So, yes, I mean, this essentially is saying that we need to do an internal control, yeah. To note the final internal control check for.
You need to actually approve the first one.
Okay.
I think I propose we approve the current system of
Yes.
internal controls.
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately everything's going to change when we go over to Unity Trust. The kind of levels of fraud protection are much higher than we've got now. So I think going back to it when the financial regulations are investigated.
So we're noting the final internal control check that's been comprehensively done by Councillor Lyons.
I spotted something.
She did, yeah.
And can I say, marvellously done. And then we need to consider arrangements for a member to undertake the internal control checks for this financial year. And seeing as someone's done such a
Given
good
that we've
job,
got someone who's so simple that.
Yeah, but Rich might not want me, because like, I'm always doing that, you don't go.
Would you be happy to do it, Joe?
I'll do it if it will have me again. Will you have me again?
Of course, I mean, I suppose my thing is, I think things should be shared around. I mean, I'm absolutely not against you doing it. I do think that the reason we have these opportunities is you've done it for a year.
Doesn't bother me.
does anyone have a burning ambition to do internal control?
I'm very good at spotting Richard's mistakes, to be fair.
Councillor Butler, sir, want to
Yeah,
put his hand up?
not only has Joe done a good job and nobody else wants to do it. She's a very pertinent point as well. Bear in mind, she seems to be quite switched on with her accountant and the other matters
Yeah, true.
to help there. So I think Joe was best placed for it. So if you're happy to do it, Joe.
Yeah, I'll do it. You don't, if no one else wants it.
Rich did put his hand up.
Rich
I
does make
can't
a-
vote.
Rich does make a good point though, that, you know, these are things that we should share around, aren't they? in the
Yeah, I mean,
process.
Councillor Lyons, there's a lot of things like this on the council in other committees, so it's,
Yeah,
we're done now, so we've agreed with that.
yes,
So,
yeah,
I do think
forget
it's
that word
important.
then.
Pushing the fire post. I think we can.
Item 36, banking. HSBC, to note as all members included were again elected, no amendment is needed. Anything more to say on that?
No?
Unity Trust, to approve name councillors to be added to the bank mandates.
The new chair.
Suggested that's with HSBC, this should be the chair of the council, the vice chair of council and committee chairs.
Yeah.
I propose we approve that.
Good.
Is there any reason
It's
not
not
to?
the rules.
Item 37, financial records for the website.
Yeah.
Are we noted?
Oh, you need to approve the updated letter, councillor, sorry.
I beg your pardon. To approve the letter concerning the business.
So this is something, do you remember I had to submit a business plan to
Yeah.
Unity Trust, and then they said just write us a letter about the business of the council, so I've just updated it with current year, last year's figures essentially, and I've changed the roles of people in the signature sheet on the end.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Item 30.
Sorry, can I just make a point, could we make sure that people sign this, i.e. yourself, councillor Blackwood, councillor Colleen?
What, tonight?
Yeah.
Okay.
Item 37, financial records for the website. To note, the financial records.
No,
added. Item 38, publicising the work of the Home Valley Parish Council.
Councillor Lyons, wonderful.
Councillor Lyles, Councillor Holmes.
Can we just put stuff on about the grants being, you know, the grant reports, can we put them in publicised, you know, like what we've done and how we spent the money and...
They go on the website anyway.
Yeah, I was going to say exactly the
Well,
same.
Jenny also didn't know that either.
But I also think, no, apart from going on the website, I think we could perhaps pick out one or two to actually give
Okay,
more.
To make a big thing about it, yeah.
Yeah.
Jenny's never found quick again.
Well, I think, I mean, it's a good point, that. The ones that we visit, we ought to make something of.
We should do that, yeah. I mean, and also the ones that have submitted good photos as well, because that's, you know, like draws attention to. And I also think maybe the one from the Film Society, whatever they call it, I think that's a good one to promote, because we
Yeah.
want to attract 18-year-olds to it. You know, but that won't work unless it gets more publicity, so I
Yeah.
think that's a good one to.
Well, I think things like, you know, because I know you're bothered about inclusion and making sure that we I think ones like Square Peg would be a good one to visit.
Yeah, it will, yeah. I visited that a few times, so it will be, and it's great, it's really good. And square peg around here, haven't they? So,
Yeah,
I mean, I would pick out square peg, the fun one, possibly the Sherry Memories one. That was a big success, and I don't think many people who went to that event realised that it was how expensive funding.
Well, why not, Jenny?
I don't know.
But that's
why
not
I'm
for
saying
more
we should
money if they don't
advertise it.
promote it.
Well, they'll always be good at it, the ones that I've seen, that obviously, that,
Most people do acknowledge it.
Yeah.
I suppose it's for them,
Yeah,
don't know, you're looking for it, I suppose, sometimes, isn't it? I suppose
Yeah.
it's the-
yeah.
Okay.
Does that go to Gemma? As, you know, when we say it's something we want to be,
I mean, I would probably do them, to be honest, as they're kind of grant related. She seems to be more swamped than any of us.
yeah,
Is she?
I was aware of that, so, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. 5 minutes to spare.